Okay, Game Art students, in this step, we're going to look at making platforms that disappear and then come back. So I'm going to start out by, in my blueprint folder, right-clicking and choosing to create a new blueprint class. I'm making an actor, and I'm going to call this a ghost platform. Once I've created it, I'm going to double-click to open the blueprint editor window. So here we have our default scene root. I'm going to start with the most basic of static meshes, so I'm just going to go ahead and add a cube. And once I've added a cube, I'm going to change the Z scale of it to make it more platform-like. You could also choose your own static mesh instead of a cube. You could choose one of the existing platforms or something else. It works the same either way. And rather than adding a component over here, we're going to jump straight into the event graph. So the event graph lets us basically program things that happen after certain events trigger them. So for example, event begin play triggers right when we start. And we may come back to that. But for now, the trigger event we want is I'm going to select my cube. And I can either right-click and look in the call event for cube collision, or I can scroll down on the right side till I hit all the possible events for my cube, and I'm most interested here in onComponentHit, which gives us this, which triggers whenever something hits this cube. So we could just type a destroy here, right, and have it destroy the cube. As soon as somebody touches it, it's destroyed. But then we run into the problem of getting it back, which is a lot more complicated than I want to be. So as far as we're concerned, the platform is gone if I can't collide with it and I can't see it. So those are the two things that I'm going to turn off. I'm going to go ahead and look for the command set collision enabled. And I want the target to be the cube, so I can just drag the cube in here and tell it, hey, that's what collision enabled that we want. And I want to set it to no collision if it's hit. And the second thing I want is set hidden in game. And I can even click this one here and it'll grab the cube for me. But that will make a second reference, and I can actually make my code a little cleaner here by saying, hey, this is the same cube. And this is the checkbox. Is it hidden? Yes, is the checkbox here. So now if I hit this, it will become no collision, so I can walk through it, and it'll become hidden. So I'm going to compile right here. We're going to test and see if that works. I'm going to bring in my ghost platform and just sort of put it right here. We'll hit play. And if I go and I jump on this guy, he immediately disappears, and I don't have any collision with him. So now we want to bring him back. So back here in our event graph, we don't really want it to disappear as soon as we step on it. You want to have it, you want a little bit of time for your player to react. So I'm going to add in here a delay. I'm going to say a duration of 1 second. So 1 second, and then the platform disappears. And I'm going to select these guys here and hit Control-C on my keyboard to copy and Control-V to paste. Because luckily, we can actually use the same commands again, but just change their options. I'm going to actually copy the delay as well. So after it's set hidden, we're going to go into another delay. And I'm going to make this one be, like 4 seconds. Put it into set collision enabled, and this time turn on collision enabled, and uncheck the new hidden. So now if I hit it, 1 second later, it's going to turn off, and then 4 seconds later, it will turn back on. Let's go ahead and test it. 1 second, I fall through it. 4 seconds later, it comes back. Okay, So coming back into our code, there's a couple of small things that we can add here. One is just like when we respawn or some of the other things, this hit cube triggers when anything hits the cube. So if you add enemies into your game, if you have physics objects rolling around, anything touching this thing is going to make it disappear and come back. So what we often like to do in here is put in a cast to the player character. In this case, it is the third person character. And I'm just adding this in here, cast to third person character, which is basically saying, hey, check with the third person character and also check if the thing that hit us, the other actor, is the third person character. And then if it is, then do all this stuff. So that's good. The other really nice thing we can do is we can turn these durations that I made here into variables. So I'm going to right click and promote this to a variable. And I'm going to give it a specific name. This delay is the this is the disappear delay. And don't put spaces up here in the variable name. You'll notice it added spaces here for me. So Unreal's syntax recognizes that if you capitalize a word, it puts a space before it for you. But the actual name, you don't want to have spaces in your variables. And then this one, this is the return delay. So I'm going to call it return and then capital D delay. Return delay. And they got created over here on the left. These are now variables. So you can see I have components and variables that are here. And this symbol here is an I. And if I click it on, it makes this a public variable. And this is where blueprints get really, really cool, because now they show up right here as default variable options in my platform. So I can have one platform that disappears after 1 second, it comes back after 4, and then I can have one that maybe disappears after 0.5 and comes back after 2. So it allows me to set different options here using the same blueprint. And we can see that one comes back quicker. One thing to be aware of is if you end up on a platform without hitting it, which for example right here, it just came back, notice it's not going away anymore, and that's because I'm not hitting it. If you wanted to get rid of that possibility, you'd have to have a trigger box that triggers when I overlap it to make me go away, because here I haven't hit the platform. If I jump again, it will now have a hit and it'll fall. Now, one last thing we can do is this code that we have can be used a couple different ways. I'm going to duplicate my ghost platform and make another one called flicker platform. And I'm going to go into that one in my blueprints. And just for ease, I'm going to give this a different material so that I know that it's different. We'll make this one grass, just because it'll be easy to tell. And in the event graph, instead of triggering on hit here and casting a third-person character, I'm going to delete those. And I'm going to attach it to event begin play. So as soon as we hit the play button, it's going to trigger a delay, and then it's going to turn off. And then it's going to have another delay and turn back on. Now I'm going to rename these variables really quick. This one is not the disappear delay. I'm going to call this one the start delay. And I'm going to call the second one, instead of return delay, I'm going to call it flicker time. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this I'm going to duplicate this delay here with the flicker delay, and I'm not changing the variable. I want it to be the same variable. And I'm going to send this guy, this delay, back into the set collision enabled. So here's what's happening. This says as soon as the game starts, wait for a certain amount of time, then turn it off, then wait for the flicker amount of time, then turn it on, then wait for the flicker time again, then go back and turn it off. So this platform is going to turn off and on a regular time. We could make this a third variable if you wanted to control it even more. Now, I have the start delay variable so that they don't all disappear and reappear at the same time. So if we look now at my flicker platform, he has the start delay and the flicker time, which is 4 seconds off, 4 seconds on. I'm going to make it a little slower or faster. Let's make it 2 and 2. And if I have 2 of these, we'll watch every 2 seconds they turn off, every 2 seconds they turn on. But if I want to be able to start having sort of a rhythm to it for my jumping puzzle, I want to change the delay. So this guy's start delay will be 2, whereas this one's start delay is 1. And if I hit play, you will see this one turns off first, and then this one comes back first. And you can start to make timed jumping puzzles with this. And it was basically the same simple blueprint.